Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to learn about the biology of 11th standard of Maharashtra State Board. So, in this textbook, we are going to learn the first lesson, that is named as Living World. So, in the previous year, it is named as a diversity in organism, but now it has changed the living world. So, let us we know about the living world. The earth planet, which is made up of biotic and abiotic components, so that the biotic and abiotic components which are living around us, so that let us we know about how to differentiate between the living and non-living organism. So that in the first point we have to understand what is the basic principles of life. The living beings are once produced to burn has to survive. For a survival, it needs energy, many chemical molecules for energy. It has to perform the metabolism, and the metabolism is a breaking of molecules. That process is called as catabolism, and the making of new molecules is called as anabolism. To obtain energy, the organism has to perform the metabolism. The metabolism, that is the breaking of molecules, is called as catabolism, and making a new molecule is called as anabolism. So let us discuss the next point. So that is about the growth. So that every living organism shows a growth. There are some other non-living objects can show the growth. So the organism which show the tendency of growth and development, this growth is a well orchestrated process. You might have observed the sand mounts, borders and grows, etc. But that growth in that particular non-living objects, which is accumulation of different particles or things, so they show growth. But in living organisms, that the growth is been takes place inside of their body. That the major difference we can understand to know the growth between the living and non-living objects. So that the growth and development are not the process which have ultimately time span, and at a certain point of time the molecules organ system begin to lose their effective working and become old. So this aging process of the body, so there is a particular time in our life so that the growth has been restricted, so that particular times that the aging started, and so the organ system begins to lose the effective working and become old. The life has to continue. The next point is about the reproduction. The life has to continue, hence the organism tries to reproduce a young ones like itself. It is possible due to the reproductions. We see that there are two types of reproductions: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. But before that, we have to understand what is the reproduction. The reproduction is producing of a new offspring. So there are some organism exceptions, that the moles, the sterile worker bees do not reproduce, yet they are living. Can we call the reproduction an inclusive characteristic of living life forms? I think no, because there are other organisms also show they do not reproduce, but still they are survive. So that it is says that the reproduction is not a defining characteristic of living organism. As the body loses its capacity to perform the metabolism, the organism dies. So then there is a important point about the reproduction is about the metabolism is that it is a very essential process of living organism, because when the organism doesn't metabolize, it means that it will dies. Any living beings respond to the thermal, chemical, or biological changes in the surrounding. This is a unique property of living beings. So that any living beings respond to the different changes takes place surrounding their atmosphere. That is a unique property that we found in the living organism. So there is a huge diversity of organisms since the immemorial variety of organisms living together on earth to understand the interrelationship of each others. So the systematic study of this essentials, this data is important for the various industrial and actual purposes, intensive laboratory and field of studies in order to identify and classify the organism, form a strong basic of meaningful use of collected data. If we need to study this diversity, certain aids called the taxonomical aids can be used. This includes the herbaria, botanical gardens, museum and biodiversity parks. So let us we discuss about these things. So first we are going to discuss about the herbarium. So the herbarium is the word that is plurally known as herbaria. It was coined by Piton de Tournefort in the Book of Elements. The art of herbarium was initiated by an Italian taxonomist, Luca Ghini, 1890 and 1556. In the period of time, herbaria are effective tools in the taxonomic studies. Herbarium is essentially a dried plant specimen that is pressed, treated, and mounted on a standard size sheet in order to preserve it. So that in the herbarium, that the persons who have take the plants from the forest and keep it for the studies in the laboratory. So it is nothing but the dried plants which are protected and saved, and that is used. So in the herbarium there is a date, place of collection along with the detailed classification and highlighting with its ecological peculiarities has been mentioned. Characters of the plant are recorded on the same sheet. So what are the different characters and what are the similar characters which are expressed in that herbarium sheet? Local names and the name of collector may be added also. This information is given in the lower right corner of the sheets, so it is labeled here. So this is the herbarium plants which are preserved, and here is the name of the author that he has been collected. So botanical gardens. The botanical gardens are the places where the plants of the different varieties are collected from the different parts of the world and grown in a scientific and systematic in vivo manners. The plants are labeled. The label board shows the scientific as well as common name of the plants. So the botanical gardens are the places where there is a variety of plants and plants which are collected and grown and properly maintained. So all this area which are very much protected, that there is no interference of any local peoples that the visitor can go to see the plants, the students and other educating related persons, but there is no allow to cut the trees and to harm the particular areas of the botanical gardens. The label board shows the scientific as well as common name on the plants. So the different plants having the names, and here is a big banyan tree which is around 255 years old banyan tree which is situated in Kolkata. So next let's we discuss about what is the zoological parks. Zoological parks is generally known as a zoo. Zoo means animals. Is a place of interest for the common man. Actually there is a different kind of animals which are found, especially been kept preserved there, so that they are protected and care is taken to provide the conditions similar to the natural habitat. So mostly the animals and birds which are live under the dense forest, but now time there are so many people have cut down the forest, and so that there is not a huge forest now, except the zoological parks and some exceptions in the areas of India. But due to protect the different species of animals, that the zoological parks which are very important, because people have hunted the several different species of the different kind of animals that is now been in a verge of extinctions, and some are the vulnerable and some are very endangered species, in such as the tiger, number of tigers, lions. So that in this way the zoological parks are very important. In a zoo, the naturalist can study the food habits and behavior of animals, how they eat, how they behave, and how they do all the activities that can be observed and studied by the different naturalists. The flora manuals and monographs and catalogs are some other tools of maintaining the biodiversity records. So there are the flora manuals, monographs and catalog are some other tools of maintaining the biodiversity records. That what kind of the flora, that plant species is there, then the mm, what are the species are found in that particular areas. So that the flora is a plant life occurring in a particular area on a time, and the monograph is described about the one selected biological group, whereas a manual provides the information key about the identification of the species found in a particular areas. So the monograph is a particular book in which there is a addition of different kind of information regarding the identification of the species found in that particular areas. So now the we come at the point of museum. So museum are the places where the collection of the preserved plants and animals species are kept. So there are the no living organisms is there, but only there is a preserved plant and animal species, that may be the skeleton, or that they may be there may be a different kind of so, died animals which are preserved under the very protective conditions, such as the plant and animal species may preserved in the formalin by addition of chemical formalin, it having a 10% to the 40% of formaldehyde in a transparent jar, so that the jar are labeled with that particular organisms which are inside of that jar. So that larger animals like the birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved, and mostly the biggest animal which are stuffed and preserved in that particular transparent jars. The science which is known as taxidermy, the science which shows these preserved animals in the museum is called as taxidermy. The specimens in the dried form are also kept in the museum. The specimens which in dried form are also kept in the museums. That is we call as a skeleton. So let us know about the biodiversity parks. It's a ecological assemblage of a species that form the self-sustaining communities or degraded barren landscape. Example, late Uttamrao Patil Biodiversity Park, Gureghar, Mahabaleshwar. So it is nothing but the ecological assemblage of species that form the self-sustaining communities. Means where there is a barren landscape in which that the species are preserved in that conditions and they grown up. This park is best model for the conservation of natural heritage in the urban landscape. So the systematic, let us understand what is the systematic term. It is about the systematic classification of living organism in helpful in understanding the interrelationship of each other in order to understand between the organism and maintain the harmony on the planet earth. The study of diversity is very important. The key, the key is the taxonomical aid used for the classification of plant and animals. The key is are based on the contrasting characters. One of the contrasting character gets accepted and the other is rejected. This statement is in a key is called the lead. Normally key are analytical in nature. Let us study about the classification of living organism in the next chapter. Up to that time, goodbye.